visit www.flaskup.com for all your Mr. Pandaria raiding guide needs. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Mr. Pandaria raiding guide. And in this video we're going to be taking a look at the 10-man normal mode version of Dark Animus in the Throne of Thunder raid. Now in order to complete this fight, you want to bring 2 tanks, 2 to 3 healers and the rest DPS. Now it doesn't really matter which DPS you do bring, however if you can get melee that do have some kind of plate wearing spec, something along those lines, so like your warriors, it might help a little bit for taking reduced damage, whereas your ranged cloth users are going to be taking a little bit more. But don't panic, you don't need to bring that many melee to the fight, just 1 to 2 in a 10-man fight, that's more than enough. Now the main ability that you need to look out for in this fight is called Anima, and you're probably going to hear me use the word Anima quite a lot, and this guide might get a little bit confusing, but the kind of general consensus of the fight is that it is very, very simple and you shouldn't go and overcomplicate it for yourself. So the way Anima works is that you have all of these little golems around the room and some bigger ones and then some even bigger ones, and they will only come to life if they have Anima in them. Now when the fight starts, the very small Anima golems which are around the room, which are kind of the ones that are closest to you, will be the ones that you need to take care of first. However, some golems around the room are considered critically damaged, and these cannot be picked up, however they can still be killed off. And these are marked currently on the screen by little arrows which cause more trouble than they're worth. Now, when it comes to the Anima golems, what you need to do is you need to get everybody in your raid to attack one of these when you kill the orb in the center of the room and pull the boss. And you need to get that player to keep aggro on it while either healing or DPSing. You get each of your tanks to pick up 2 of them. Now, what you can do is, because we didn't really think about this the first time we killed the boss, is you can make this phase really, really fast by just skipping the large Anima golems, and these are the ones that can be found to the right hand and the left hand side of the room. Some will be active, some will be critically damaged. Now each little Anima golem has 4 Anima in it, and this is key to remember. Each large Anima golem can hold up to 8 Anima, and then each massive Anima golem, which are the 2 that are standing next to the boss, can hold up to 32 Anima. Now, going into the last phase, you want as little mobs alive as possible so that the boss doesn't increase his Anima level, and we'll talk a bit more about that later on in the video. Something else to bear in mind for the little Anima golems is that you shouldn't stack up to, say, AoE heal. If the Anima golems do come close to each other, they will increase each other's attack speed by 250% and their damage by 175%. And they will also gain 30% movement speed and also immunity to any movement slowing effects. So do bear this in mind when you have the small Anima golems up, you need to just keep them separated. What we did is we put markers around the outside of the room in order to pinpoint where they were, and it was also used as kind of a guideline as to which ones people would be picking up. So I mentioned that you could make phase 1 shorter by not using the large Anima golems. Now the way you'd do this is you'd get your tank to take his 2 small Anima golems to the massive one which is standing next to the boss. Now if you do have to spawn a large one, he will gain an ability called Crimson Wake, and this will be like a red thing on the floor that's like a pool of water, and it will move towards whoever it's targeted and it will pursue them for 30 seconds. And if you get hit by the pool of water, which is actually kind of an explosion, you will get dealt for 150,000 fire damage, and it does move quite fast as the 30 seconds progresses, so you do need to be able to move away from it. Now back to the golems again. If you are to ignore the large Anima golems, what you want to do is get your first tank to take his 2 mobs to the massive Anima golem next to the boss. Now the Anima will jump from its current mob to its closest nearby mob, whether it is active or inactive, and that's the key here, because you can use the inactive mobs to your benefit. Now, what you want to do is get your tank to kill his 2 next to the massive anima golems in order to spawn the first one. You want to get tank 2 to kill his small anima golems, the smallest of the small ones, next to the large inactive ones at the side of the room. This will dump that anima into there, and it will also be 2 more mobs out of the way for this fight. Now, when you have a massive anima golem up, it will gain 2 abilities. Its first ability is called Explosive Slam, and this is what your tanks need to look out for, because this will inflict 175,000 fire damage to anyone within 9 yards of his target, and when you are hit by this ability, you gain a debuff called Seared, and this will increase the damage that you take from further explosive slams for 25 seconds. So it's a stacking debuff on the tank that your tanks need to swap on. Swap on about 2 stacks of it, that should be fine. If not just 1, that should be fine as well. Now the second ability that you get is called Matter Swap, and this is probably going to be a little bit confusing as well, unfortunately. And this ability will be placed on 1 player in your raid, and when this ability has been dispelled off that player, it will swap that player's current position with its other ally that's furthest away. So if you've got 2 people standing on either side of the room, and one of them gets the Matter Swap debuff, gets dispelled, they will swap positions. Now this can be kind of useful, but you don't really need to take any advantage of it in normal mode if you execute the fight correctly. Now Matter Swap also deals damage, unfortunately, and the damage works weirdly. So what you want to aim to do is dispel Matter Swap when it's at 6 seconds left, as this will cause the players to take 50% of the damage each. If you dispel it instantly, then 1 player will take the full brunt of the damage and take 100%. If you then for every second after that you don't dispel it for, the damage will become more and more equal. So when you get to 11 seconds, it will be 90-10, and then it will go 80-20, 70-30, 60-40, 50-50, and then it will swap round. The other player will start to take more damage, and you'll take less and less damage. So this is why you need to dispel it about halfway, as this will help you for managing the overall damage in the raid. So if we move back to the golems again, once your tanks have killed off their 2, what you then want to get the tank that's got the massive anima golem on him is to move it into the center of the room, and then for the remainder of the first phase you want to get him to taunt the small adds of other people that are tanking them, and then pull them to the massive anima golem and then kill it at that golem, and this will then dump the anima from those golems into the massive one, and they can take quite a bit. Each small one has 4 anima, and it can hold up to 32, so you do the maths, it's quite a bit. And then once you've got them all killed and all the anima's been dumped, this is when you'll then want to look to move into phase 2. Now you can activate phase 2 whenever you want throughout the fight, and this is done just by killing off one of the inactive anima golems that's near Dark Animus himself, who will be standing at the very back of the room in the center. Once you do this, it will bring him to life, as he will gain anima from that small mob. Now throughout the fight, Dark Animus will periodically drain anima from the minions that are around the room. Now this is why I was saying that you need the anima to be in as little mobs as possible. The less mobs, the lower regeneration rate for the boss's anima. And that's key to this fight and this phase, because the more anima he has, the more damage he's going to be dealing. Now, Dark Animus has quite a few special abilities, and his first one goes by the name of Touch of the Animus, and this is where he will corrupt a random target, and this will inflict 30,000 fire damage every 4 seconds for the remainder of the fight. Now, I believe this ability can be bopped off people or ice blocked or stuff like that, but it is a bit of a pain to deal with, unfortunately. You just have to. Now, in this phase, your tanks also have to look out for an ability called Anima Ring, and this will form several little red spheres in a circle around the tank, and the spheres will move towards the center of the circle. Now, any player that touches the sphere will consume it, and this will increase the damage they take from melee attacks by 200% for 15 seconds, and this is also a stacking debuff on the player. So if your tank uses a cooldown for those 15 seconds, they can just take one of the spheres and just just have to put up with the damage. But alternatively, you could also get a different player to go and take one of the spheres so the tank can move out. Now when Dark Animus reaches 50 anima, he will gain the ability Anima Font, and this will further buff his earlier ability, Touch of the Animus, which will cause the player to then spew anima bolts at nearby locations every second. Now if people are to get hit by these bolts, they will take 250,000 fire damage, so it's a bit of a pain in the arse. What I should have also mentioned is that in this phase you will still have one of the massive anima golems active. You won't actually kill that one off, so your tanks will also have to be swapping between the boss and the golem throughout the fight in order to manage the debuffs. Now back to Dark Animus again. When he reaches 75 anima, he will gain an ability called Interrupting Jolt, and boy, this ability is a bastard. And I've started using that word quite a bit for some of these bosses' abilities because they are just general pain in the arse abilities. Now when Dark Animus gains this ability, he will inflict 350,000 nature damage to every player in the raid. Now you can probably guess from its name as well, Interrupting Jolt. If players are casting at this time, then it will also interrupt the spell cast of all players. So you need to make sure that when he does cast Interrupting Jolt, everybody stops casting and just takes the damage. You have to heal through that pretty fast in order to then put up with the further damage that the boss deals. And his final ability is when he reaches 100 anima, and this ability is called Full Power, and this is pretty much your enrage for the fight. You don't want him to reach this at all. Now when he does reach full power, he will fire out random anima bolts at everybody in the raid, and each bolt inflicts 350,000 fire damage to anyone within 5 yards of the impact point. You're not going to live through that, unfortunately. It is going to be a wipe. So yeah, this fight, like I've said, is a bit confusing, but if anyone does have any questions about it, then please do feel free to ask me in the comments section below of YouTube, or send me a PM. I'm more than happy to help you with the fight because it can be confusing if you try to overcomplicate it. So as always, thank you for watching, and if you are interested in future Mr. Pandaria raiding guides, then please do feel free to subscribe to the channel.